Good morning this morning. How are you this morning? This is take 2 of how I peruse the news this morning. Now that all the animals are settled in, I can discuss what I noticed this morning in the news. Just a little blurb on this New Year's Eve day morning. How about that? It's a morning of tongue twisters. Make sure you're awake. Grab your coffee. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Let's kind of get into it here. Turkey says it's ready to supply electricity to Syria and Lebanon. Turkey is working to resolve the energy supply issues in Syria and is ready to provide electricity to the country, where Ankara supported the rebels who toppled Bashar al-Assad earlier this month, Turkish energy minister said on Monday. The vast majority of people meet their electricity needs with generators, so there is actually a very serious need for electricity. Absolutely there is. And the Turks are in a wonderful position to offer it. Pretty much all the infrastructure in that area is of the Ottoman Empire, which is the point of this video. We are essentially seeing the beginning of the resurgence of the Ottoman Empire. Well, we have for a while now, for a number of years. There was this article that I noticed as well, and this is actually just from yesterday. Kind of goes hand in hand with the Turkish supplying electricity. Turkey's resurgence has left the West flat-footed. In some ways it has. In some way it hasn't. I think this has been seen coming for a long time. We're going to get into this article just a little bit here. But I think the Israelis have been well aware of this resurgence now for quite a while. And that is part of the reason for their moves into Syria. So, in this article, Erdogan's son, in his statement at a rally in Istanbul on 1 January, yesterday, Hagia Sophia, today, Umayyad Mosque, tomorrow, Al-Aqsa. The Umayyad Mosque is in Damascus, and so we can only infer that the Turks consider themselves the new major power in Syria. Al-Aqsa is in Jerusalem, and so it's mentioned raising an eyebrow in Israel about the resurgence of Turkish regional power. Again, this is something that the Israelis this isn't something new to them. This goes back, if you recall the story of 2010, when there was a Gaza flotilla, and it was attacked by the Israeli Navy.
Shuto has our report.
Within a few short hours, the calm waters off the Israeli coast had turned into a violent battleground. First contact just before midnight, when the Israeli Navy intercepted the so-called Freedom Flotilla. The 6 ships in the convoy were carrying 10,000 tons of humanitarian aid for Gaza and 700 activists, including at least 6 Americans. They were met by Israeli patrol boats, helicopters, and Navy commandos. Israeli forces had warned the flotilla to turn back.
You are approaching an area of hostilities, which is under a naval blockade.
But the ships refused. Then Israeli commandos boarded them, dropping on deck from hovering helicopters. 1 hour later, 9 activists were dead and dozens wounded. The Israeli Navy claimed self-defense, releasing this video to support their case. Sailors attacked by club-wielding activists. One sailor thrown onto a lower deck. Soon, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had canceled a trip to Washington to meet with President Obama.
They were mobbed, they were clubbed, they were beaten, stabbed. There was even a report of gunfire. And our soldiers had to defend themselves, defend their lives, or they would have been killed.
That was in 2010. And the response from the Turkish government was visceral and immediate. This is an article just days after the fact. Turkish premier speaks out against Israel in wake of boat raid. Turkey's Premier Erdogan spoke out against Israel on Friday, calling Hamas militants resistance fighters in the wake of a deadly Israeli raid on aid boats bound for Gaza, as 10,000 people protested the raid in Istanbul. The article goes into specifically Erdogan criticizing Israel specifically. and noting that this would not be forgotten. We're not going to get into this article too much, other than I will be sure to link it in here if you care to read it. But he does say in their own language, in Hebrew, "Thou shalt not kill. What do you not understand? I say in Hebrew, lo tirzach." He's saying it right to him. And he goes on to say a few other things. Hamas are resistance fighters fighting for their land. They are Palestinians. They won an election, and now they are in Israeli prisons. I told this to the Americans. I do not accept Hamas as a terrorist group. There were going to be aid convoys flotillas into Gaza coming from Turkey when Israel reacted to October 7th. Those were stymied. But in 2016, and Erdogan has only tightened his grip on power in Turkey after the 2016 coup. And the 2016 coup, this is an Al Jazeera article, and of course everything will be linked into this. But it discusses this quite in depth. And this specifically here is who they blame, who is in self-imposed exile in Pennsylvania. I'm just going to leave this article for you to digest yourself. And I'll leave it there. But what is happening currently, as we speak right now? The Ottoman Empire's resurgence is best shown on a map such as this. In the north, in Idlib, Aleppo, Jablas, that whole area is all controlled by Turkish-backed militants. This map is pretty old, actually, 2017. We know that Hama, and Damascus have all fallen. There's a line, essentially from Idlib, Hama, Damascus, back up to Aleppo. That is all Turkish-controlled territory. We know that for 100% fact. This map is actually old. I actually apologize for bringing this map up. But what it does validate is the point of this video, is that the resurgence of the Ottoman Empire is what matters. This is the Ottoman Empire. As you can see, those areas that I just described in Syria were already under control of Turkey for hundreds and hundreds of years. So their ability to provide electricity should be the case. The infrastructure was likely built by them. The railroads were built by them. Most of the road networks were built by them, the predominant ones. As you can see, the area they control is likely this purple area. It's likely the purple area. It's amazing. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. There's the Kurdish area. Let me go back to this out-of-date map. Oh, I was looking for a more current map. I'm sorry. But that's a good approximation. The Ottoman Empire is resurging. That's my statement. The Ottoman Empire is resurgent right now. We're seeing it grow. They're patient. It's taking time. As most things do take time, this is also going to take time. This will be years in the making. The incident between them, the Israelis, with the Gaza flotilla was 14 years ago. What's happening now? We could be talking 14 years from now about the meeting of the Israeli forces and the Turkish forces, which I do now think is an absolute realistic possibility. When you look at the greater Israel project and the expansion of the, let's just call it what it is, the expansion of the Ottoman Empire, there will be 2 regional powers. 3 if you count Persia. But there will be 2 to 3 regional powers. What will happen with Egypt? I don't know. That's probably the wild card here. I assume Jordan will just end up getting sucked up into the vacuum that is left over from Syria. Parts of it will be occupied by the Israelis, parts by the Saudis, parts by Iraqi militia. The Jordanian king and his family will have to run probably to the United States instead of Russia. They'll run to the United States. Ironic that Assad will be in Moscow and the Jordanian king will probably be in Washington. I find that ironic, as the Greater Israel Project and the Ottoman Empire basically force their will on the entire region over the next 100 years. Egypt is the wild card. Who knows what will happen there? The Camp David Accords, they still hold. They still hold. It's a miracle they do, but they do. A simple coup could take care of that in Egypt, though. So, crazy. Crazy. I'm still trying to find a map that represents the best image of Syria today. I'm just going to pop this up here. It also doesn't show the Israeli advance, which is why some of these maps are completely useless, because they don't show the Israeli advance, because the Israelis are now only 20 kilometers from Damascus. 20 kilometers. That's nothing. That's artillery range. We'll see what happens. The Ottoman Empire, the Greater Israel Project, their borders will meet soon. What will it mean for us? We'll find out. I don't know if it'll be good, but it certainly will be interesting. And with that, that's all I got. I appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by.